it's a team effort, and like I wouldn't be here like today if it
Yeah,
wasn't for all the people who even like laid the foundation
vision,
for
yeah,
me to even be able to do it.
for sure. Wolf, were you good?
Yes, we are absolutely.
All right, let's do it. We're good. We're good. We're good. All right. Yo, thank you, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of Conversations with Chai. Today, I have with me the founder of and R and Masala Mixtape, Pankti Doshi. Thank you, Pankti, for doing this.
I was super happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm gonna just retell the story.
Of course.
I think that you and I like really want to get into like how this even like started and what you kind of envisioned for this space because I'm assuming that there was a vision here for you to start doing these things. I
Absolutely.
looked up the first ever Masala mixtape. What was the venue?
Yeah, it was in 74 White actually in Brooklyn,
Brooklyn.
Williamsburg.
What's
Yeah.
the venue called?
Superior
Superior
ingredients.
Ingredients.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Superior. I'm like at Superior Ingredients, and I'm like looking at my friends, and I'm like, we've been there for a couple hours, but now like
Yeah.
Anik finally hits the stage, and he like performs like regardless, and I'm just like, I'm looking at my friends, and I'm like, I'm looking around at like everybody in tune to like what's happening, and I'm like, oh, this is like a moment,
Oh yeah.
and I was like, it's a moment inside like South Asian New York space, like South Asian space in general, right? And it's hard to like describe, but like tell me, like how did even like the like Masala mixtape,
Yeah.
like how was that? What was the inception of that?
Yeah, how was the origin? No, that's a really great question. So I would take us back at least a couple months before that. So actually, and or in just even the concept of events in New York started. I'm a few years before that. So when I moved to New York City, I personally love people. I think my favorite feel in the world is when people are in a room together and they're building those friendships. New York City is a big city and it's hard to, establish those conversations and those environments. So I think one of my favorite things is like, let's put everyone in a room and, see who bonds with who. So I actually started off as a club promoter in New York and
Okay.
I was directing business through a bunch of different clubs. And as it was progressing, I realized, oh man, maybe there is a space for something like this in New York City. My one of my teammates came up to me and he was like, hey, Pankti, I have a ticketing platform. You love people. Let's bring it together. So that actually started off Rung Rave, which is our holy event. Originally thought a couple hundred people will come, 800 people ended up coming.
Mhm.
So that was just mind blowing, similar to what you described with Masala, just seeing that, wow, there is a need, there's a space. Let's try this. So at that time, I was brainstorming, thinking, like, what's the next event? And, we grew up going to a bunch of music festivals, and I personally love them from Coachella to EDC. But, why isn't there environment for South Asian Coachella? So literally, it was a brain cell idea, and next thing you know, we're like, okay, let's just do it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
in 3 months, we did it like 25 artists, about 1,100 people, and there you go, Masala mixtape.
Yo, it's crazy because I think like you kind of proved that it like works and works at such a high level, and that's what
Oh
gets me
yeah,
so excited
yeah,
about like what the future of the space. And I don't know how much you've thought about what it looks like for you
yeah,
in the next like 3 to 5 years because
for sure.
people are now like for some events are traveling up or traveling to
Yeah,
the
oh,
city to go to these, right? And I'm
totally.
in my head you said like Coachella, and I'm all like, is do we ever get there? Do you think we ever get there where we think that we can do like a real festival?
Yeah, I love to dream big, and I
Mhm.
really believe it. If you can think it, I think you can like manifest it. And I feel like just what I was saying earlier, the support in our community is unbeatable. I think that's the one beautiful part that I love living in New York City. I genuinely believe that people are here uplifting one another and here to help one another out. And I personally have felt that since the moment I've started events. And it's just so beautiful to see that within our community and in any way or form. That is my dream. So we would love to take Masala Mixtape next year to LA along with New York City. So we'll be expanding, but ultimately, I would love to create something as big as Coachella.
Yeah, no, I think it's possible, and I think, like, we have to do a lot of, like of course, like, you're doing, like, the work in terms of, like, organizing and setting up,
Sure.
but I think we also have to, like, from every aspect of it has to we all have to kind of, like, work towards that, right? Like, we need,
Totally.
like, the artists to continuously, like, grow their
Yes, yes,
grow their bands and their followings, right? So
absolutely.
they also become the draws, right?
Oh, for
Because
sure.
I think people are, like, craving for
Mhm.
these things, right? Because like you said, like, you hosted your first event,
Yeah.
800 people on, and I think
Huh.
that's I think just the demand and supply now of how many events are going on. Like we
Yeah.
have a Masala mixtape, we have a No Nuzzer, we have
Indo.
Indo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And all of these places, like they all have demand, right? It's not like nobody is,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. It's incredible. That's one thing that, in the last few years, everything is popped off, which is really fun as we plan events. We're always like reaching out to one another, being like, hey, I'm hosting an event on this day. Make sure we all get to go to all of each other's events and support one another. And it's that same community. And it's wonderful to see the same faces over and over again and also see new people coming through as well. But to your point, you're right. It's incredible to see that even Pop Shift and like No Nazar being based in LA. And then we got so many different brands like Brown Girl Mag, Juggernaut,
Hmm.
Pinto. And there's new now Tamil meetups, and it's just incredible to see our community grow and thrive right now.
Yeah, no, and it's like to your point, like even like a Tamil meetup, right? And
Yeah.
all of these events are like packing out venues.
Oh
At,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm actually like I'm curious as to that. Like, are you guys like kind of all in talks? Like everybody who's in that space, like, are you like communicating and trying to like build out like the ecosystem kind of together?
Yeah, I know, especially as we try to bring masala to LA. And I
Hmm.
was just about to start hitting up the LA folks as well because, I don't think this is one person's story. I think it's the fact that we're all doing this together as an entire community is why we can do it. Like, I genuinely do not believe I would never take credit for anything I'm doing today because I think it's the momentum of everyone doing what they are right now, but also everyone who probably laid the foundation to where we are today that makes this magic happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's how I kind of like even like look at it now, right? I'm all like, yo, we might not be the generation or the people that maybe get it to the levels that we're envisioning, but
Right.
we're definitely like you're definitely pushing the baton out,
Yeah.
right? And maybe we do get there, right? Like we don't know, but but if you look at any other like space, it's like people like pushed it forward
Oh,
each time, right?
absolutely, absolutely. It's about like pushing that needle just a little bit forward to see what new thing is gonna come up next.
Yeah. And do you like when you think about like, hey, like in the next like 3 to 5 years, right? Like outside of like the support from the community, right? Like what do you look at as like some of the work that kind of needs to get done for us to be in that place as a community?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing I would say is, just like invest in the community, invest in those friendships, and invest in the concept of just bringing that energy and people together. I think one of the beautiful things is energy is contagious. When you're in that room together, whether it's for one of our events or anyone else's events, you feel it. So last week we hosted Dandia Drop, which is, we did a Garba in Manhattan. I've
Mm,
grown up doing Garba my whole life. We always used to go to Jersey, and we were like, you know what? Let's increase access for people to go to Garba in Manhattan, for especially those people who weren't able to make it out to Jersey. And I just remember a moment, just similar to what you mentioned at Masala. I just like was overseeing it, and I'm like, whoa! Like you see, everyone just people are doing it. People are doing
mhm.
the Garba. People are doing the Ras, and I would say in the future, like just please keep showing up, build those friendships, and keep adding to that community because it's because of people's support along with the talent. The talent in our community is so rich and it's so diverse. And literally every event, I still feel like I'm meeting new people who are, hey, I'm an artist. Hey, I'm a poet. Hey, I'm a comedian. Okay, let's like do an event. So outside of Andor, I personally am now a full-time event planner and I'm trying to work with different creatives to see, hey, what's the next event that we can put on together to make it big? So the next event that I'm hosting is called Diwali Delights and I'm trying something different. I'm like, okay, let's keep a more intimate crowd, maybe 40 to 50 people.
Mhm.
I found 4 South Asian chefs in New York, and we're gonna make a 4-course
I'm
culinary
going to that.
tasting
I'm
night.
going to that. I'm going
You're
to that. I'm going to that. I'm
coming!
going to that. I'm
Oh
going
my
to that.
god,
Yeah, yeah.
thank
I bought my
you.
ticket yesterday or
Oh,
2
you're
days ago.
so
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you for supporting
Yeah, yeah,
things
no.
like that. One of the chefs, Mohit Sahu, came up to me a year back, was like, "Hey, I had this idea." I'm like, "Honestly, I love executing, so let's
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
make it happen." Like, I really believe that there's a space for this, there's a need for it, and especially for all the foodies that are out there, like, let's do this.
Yeah, no, I think that's so cool that like the products that you're offering,
Yeah.
like there is such a demand and it's
Right.
so and I think like we've only scratched the like surface of like what products can be offered at what level, right? Like
Oh,
we're talking about like, hey, a South Asian Coachella, right? Or hey, like a South Asian like Iron Chef, right? We don't know what
yeah.
that looks like in the US. Like I think like when we think of like those like I don't know how to describe it. Like I guess like larger than life like South Asian figures, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at people that have crossed it in, maybe like Bollywood or India or like overseas, but
Absolutely.
we don't see it or I don't think we have seen it
Yeah.
yet in the US, right? Like we haven't seen like I don't know, like and it will happen, right? Like we're starting to see like Diljit did Coachella, right?
Yeah.
But there's a time and space where I think we will have like multiple
Oh,
of
yeah.
those, right? Like we'll have an AP, we'll have a Diljit, we'll have who knows, right? Headline multiple headliners because
Oh, yeah.
I think I was talking to I think I was talking to Tej about this, right? Where I was like, hey, like there needs to be up and down interest on like these lineups too, right?
Mhm.
Because of course you're hosting like the space. And even for something like, hey, like Diwali Delights, right? Diwali Delights, a big part of it was like, I know, like, hey, like, Aki's like an amazing chef, so I want to go try his, right? Because I've been hearing him do his thing, and I was like, oh, I
Yeah,
want to go try out his food. What a perfect way to go through it. But
absolutely.
for a masala mixtape or whatever other creatives come out, we need interest up and down these like lineups too, right? Like, and it comes by
Absolutely.
fostering some of these like artists, right?
Oh, for sure. I'm really excited. I totally agree with you. I think it's already happening. I think it's a matter of time that we see all this pop off, not just in New York, but literally around the country. We see LA and New York as big hubs, but I genuinely think that it's going to spread throughout the country. And I'm really excited, even like a few years later when we're all much older and we have kids of our own, like the next gen, like I hope that they get experience this kind of stuff too.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think like that, I hope, and I'm glad that you're like kind of pushing it now, right? Like we should be offering these like places because I think there is a demand in a lot of places, right? Like
Course.
there's huge pockets of like this is what just brown people do. We find each
Yeah,
other, right? So
yeah.
like I think there's huge pockets of like places where like for example like a Texas, right?
Oh
There's
my
definitely like a
gosh.
huge South
In
Asian
Houston,
community
Dallas,
down there.
Austin, all of the big hubs and cities. Literally, as we were doing events, like even Masala, I've gotten so many messages being like, "Come to Chicago, come to Detroit, can you come to Canada?" Like, keep spreading it in different cities. And honestly, that would be my dream if we can go Masala mixtape on tour. I would love that.
I mean, we're starting to see it now. I'm pretty sure isn't is
They're
doing
on tour.
overseas, right?
Yes, they
Yeah.
are. I think they're doing Goa for New Year's as well. So, I mean, it's incredible to see. I'm so proud of the Indo team and Armand. I mean, remember Armand did Masala 1 with us,
Mhm.
and just to see his growth, like literally try to make it to every Indo event to support him. And it's just so beautiful to see his journey from start to end. And now you're right, he's on tour.
Yeah, no, like that to me is like insane, right? Something that was like birthed here,
Yep.
like not that long ago
Not
either,
too
right? Like
long. Yeah, a
you're
couple years
there on
back.
Indo like pretty recently.
Yeah.
You're on your second or
Yeah.
third Masala mixtape,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like this is just like the very, very early inceptions of these, and they're
Yeah.
still massive hits.
So much to keep growing and so much to keep doing. And I genuinely feel like it's so exciting that people are down. Like people are just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm ready. I'm gonna be there. And I literally, we put up that Diwali Delight event 2 days ago, and we're already like more than halfway sold out. I'm like, wait, that quick? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
incredible, you know?
No, people want to
Yeah,
like that's the thing. Like I think like the demand is like definitely
yeah,
there, right?
yeah.
And I think like as these products get grown, as these products get refined, right? We're looking at bigger venues, better venues, like
Yes.
at bigger artists, better artists, and even growing the artists that we like currently have.
You know, I love what you said at the end about growing artists that we already have. I think you're totally right. It's about getting the bigger names, the big artists, but also investing in our local talent and the up and coming artists. And that's one of the most beautiful things to see as we're taking on artists from Masala. And especially on the day of when you see all the artists under one roof, all talking to each other and hearing those conversations being like, we should collab or like we should make some music together. And I think those are my favorite and most special moments where I'm like, I cannot wait for you to get in a room and like record some new music and see what you can put out
Do you understand your role in that?
there. That's so sweet.
Do you understand? No, no, I'm seriously like I like I've like wondered that, right? Because I see you like you're like I know you have like a full-time job. Like I see you like
Yeah,
really like this stuff is not easy. You're hosting events like
yeah,
pretty often from what I like
yeah,
pretty often from my understanding,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So like what is like do you understand like your role in that or like do
yeah.
you like what kind of like drives you to do these things?
Honestly, it's literally what I just said. Where when I see two people or just a group of people just bonding, just vibing on something that's deeper than just who they are as people, finding their passion, finding like, hey, like me too. I feel the exact same way. I think building that community and that bond or that lifelong friendship is everything I stand for. Since I've been a little kid, like, I've always loved like just family. And yes, we're in New York. And I always say this, my friends are my chosen family. I genuinely believe that. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be able to even create even half of any of this if it wasn't for my best friends, the teammates, the community. It's all the domino effect went together. And in those moments, like you said, I feel something inside of me where I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm so happy. I'm genuinely so happy for whoever is bonding and creating something together. And I can't wait. I'm just like, tell me what you're gonna do. Like, I can't wait to be there, and I want to be at that next event where you guys are working together. So it's just like one after the other, and just seeing that domino effect is what really gets me excited.
No, I like really look at you like very, very like as like in a very, very important light, right? Like I think that like the community that you're helping foster
Yeah.
is very important. I think like most of like my like South Asian connections, right? And like think about it, I'm like somebody who like grew up in and around this area forever, but I still get an opportunity to
Mm,
meet new artists, like meet new
yeah.
people, like meet different creatives that are doing something. And I don't know when those opportunities are ever going to like line up. We don't
We
know,
don't
right?
know.
But
Yeah.
just like the facilitating of that space is
Yep.
such an important thing
Oh yeah,
that like
100%.
I know that you don't take like lightly either, right?
Oh, for sure. I know this is really cheesy, but for many, many years, I've always said I love love. And I think love is one of the most beautiful things humans can do, not through just like relationships, but through family, through friends, through anything. And at every event that we go through, I feel it. I feel the like love and the energy in the room. And it's just so beautiful that just people have that and people can. I really think that energy is contagious and it spreads. And once you have that in the room, it just, everyone's like friends of friends and those good vibes are all there, you know?
No, and I think what you're saying, like in terms of like love, right? It's like also like a love of community too, right?
Yeah,
I think like
exactly.
we get such a kick out of like seeing people who like look like us and like sound like us and like
Oh,
are
totally.
from the same stories as us
Yeah.
go do their thing at like the
Oh,
craziest level, right? Like
absolutely.
I think like one of the most like common things that I even hear, right? Like even from people like not listening, there's just like, yo, like it's exciting to see you do your thing, right? Like it's not my thing,
Yep, yep.
right? But to see you do your thing
Oh,
at like
yeah.
it just like makes me happy that like, hey, like there's somebody look like me that wants to do that thing and is going to go do that thing, right?
Exactly. It's wild. Like a lot of our community are either, from like South Asian backgrounds or countries and or kids of immigrant families. And
Mhm.
exactly what you said, like you're like, oh man, we're in the same boat, but like I'm so excited. You keep doing you, like do whatever you need to do. And I think if I can be a resource, like personally, to help you get from point A to point B, let me know. I always believe in like connecting or finding a way to put two people in the room together that I think makes sense together. So whether it's like through events or if it's matchmaking, like I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey, let's
yeah.
let's make it happen.
Do you like I know we're talking about like, hey, like
Sure.
kind of I guess like how to describe it, like you're fostering these like communities, you're fostering these relationships, you're fostering the collaboration, right? Do you think there are actors or players in the space that like aren't helpful to the collective as a whole?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good question. And, I think it is possible. I can't say that there aren't people that are not helping the needle move forward. So I'm sure like they exist and they're out there. In my experience, at least working within the community, and for better or for worse, like in terms of my interactions, they've always been ones that are connectors or facilitators
Mhm.
or energy builders. And maybe because of that good energy vibe, it's worn off the bad energy vibe.
Mhm.
So maybe because of that environment, I feel like I've been part of fostering, promoting like energy loving environment. But do I think that that exists? 100%. I'm sure that's there. In my experience in the events that we've been a part of, I personally haven't faced it so directly in my events or just in the interactions. Most of the people that are there are just like, I'm so excited to be there, or thank you so much for creating this opportunity. I'm new to the city and I genuinely didn't have that many friends. And now I'm able to, like, at least, like, even if you met one other person, like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think like I feel very grateful and lucky that at least right now, in the time that I've been in New York, in my like limited biased experience, I do think that I've been very fortunate. And I don't take that lightly. I know like it doesn't always got to be that way. Like I
Yeah,
know that
yeah, yeah.
the environment is everything, and it's crazy. Sometimes I think about like how is it this way? Like how do I actually? How is it this real? And it's wild. I genuinely do feel like that positivity is in the room, and at least in my limited experience, I have felt that positivity through and through.
Yeah, no, I asked that question just because like I hear like like you hear like typical like people say like XYZ about this event or
Mhm.
hey, I like this event more than I like
Oh,
this event,
for
right?
sure.
And that I think is like so destructive,
I
right?
know.
And I try to like really stamp that out within even myself, right?
No,
Because
of
it's like
course.
normal to do, right? Be like, oh, like I don't want to go to that space or I don't want to be in that space.
No, of
But
course.
it's like that's fine, right? Like if something isn't for you, right?
It's
That's not
okay.
for you, right?
That's okay.
But I try not to now take it away from the people that it is for, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, even also personally, like as we go to events, like I think like I get it. Like I because our team has created these events, we know like what it takes to put something like so big on where it's like and I really believe that anyone ever trying to create something like it's not pretty in the beginning. There's ups and downs, there's issues. Maybe on the outside it looks like it's flowing, but behind the scenes it's like chaotic. But at the end of the day, I really believe that like the fact that whoever is trying to do anything out in this world, it's incredible that they're actually even doing
Doing
it
it.
and yeah, making that effort. Because a lot of times you can just be sitting there and just thinking it, and I think ideating is great too. But the fact that people are like pushing the needle forward, actually executing, even if it's not like perfect, and I don't believe in perfection, I believe like just put yourself out there, try and see if it works, great. And if it doesn't, maybe pivot and try something else. And I believe the more you try and more you put yourself out there, I believe that that passion will pull through.
Pull through.
Mhm.
I tell my friends this all the
Yeah.
time. I'm all like, yo, if you don't like whoever is in the space like
Yeah.
that you're trying to build in,
Yeah.
right? Either two things. Okay, fine. So go support the people
Yeah.
that you do align with,
Hmm.
or go do it better.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Like
I
it's really
love
go
that.
do it
No,
better,
I
right? Because
love that.
I think like because you hear that, right? Like I'm sure like
Yeah.
oh like this event could have been this way and this
Yeah.
event could have been this way. It's like yo that's fine and all for you to say sitting at home,
Totally.
right? It's like armchair quarterbacking. It's like yo it's
Yeah.
easy for you to say,
Yeah.
right? But I'm also balancing 30 like you go
Other
30
things.
artists and like
Yeah.
1100 people, right? Like yo if you think that this is like go do it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, just on a side note, like during the day, I work as a genetics counselor, and I've been full time in that for a really long time. And for many, many months, like, I was just like, I don't, there's certain things about the genetic counseling scene that I want to change. Or, I was ideating, I was thinking, and then literally like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna create my own genetics company. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna do it. Like, it, it won't happen until you kind of just take that leap of faith. And I know it's risky and can be kind of scary to do that, but I genuinely think that if you try and you put yourself out there, something will come through and you'll create and connect the dots in some way or form in the future.
Yeah. Wait. So wait. Talk to me about this. So what is?
Yeah.
I'm so curious. Wait. What is
Yeah.
genetics counseling?
Yeah, yeah. So my background actually is in this field called genetic counseling. And the whole concept behind it is so, for example, if you were my patient, I would take like a family history of you, understand if there's any medical issues or any health conditions that are going on in you and in your family history. If you're about to have kids, we can have a conversation. If we're not about to have kids, we can also still talk. And actually, I can have a conversation with you, take a genetic test, and tell you the risks of developing any type of genetic condition that might be going on in your family. So it's empowering people to learn more about the data that's inside of you that you were just born with.
Interesting. Okay, so like it's like if I'm like predisposed
Mhm.
to like
Some condition.
diabetes or
Sure,
something
sure.
like
Yeah.
that, right?
Some type of cancer, something that's going on in your family. I would be the one on a technical scientific front to tell you what's up. But then the other part of it, which is my favorite, is the psychology and the counseling. 'Cause a lot of times I'm delivering pretty shitty and pretty scary news. So a lot of my role is, hey, how can I support you on an emotional front to help you get to where you want to be in life?
Wait, when you say really shitty news, right? Because these are all like what, like percentages, I'm assuming, right? Like how accurate are these things? Pretty
Yeah,
accurate.
they're actually pretty
Like
accurate.
you can tell if I have like if I give you like my
My
genetic
family
profile,
history,
you can
yeah.
probably tell me if I'm gonna get like diabetes or something.
Yeah, so diabetes, we call it as a multifactorial factor.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that one isn't as well studied, but there are other ones like let's say your dad and your grandpa and maybe some uncle on your dad's side had colon cancer under the age of 50, then I would pretty much genetically test you for that and you could potentially carry a genetic change in one of the genes that's responsible for colon cancer. And yes, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get colon cancer, but we could have that data and if we do then we'll screen you a little bit earlier. It could be flipped around where let's say you got cancer and you come talk to me, then we can actually try to figure out, hey, why did you get it? Was it actually environmental or maybe there's something going on in your family? And giving people that information, whether it's cancer or for as extreme as a neuromuscular problem like Huntington's disease, it can be really emotionally intense. And honestly, I really think it depends on the person emotionally. Some people don't want that data and some people do. So I think really working with that person.
So wait, who's coming in through your door? Like, like,
Yeah.
can I just like
Yeah.
walk in and just be like, so like, what drives somebody to go, hey, I want to go do this?
Often it's a family history of something
Okay.
or a personal new diagnosis. So let's say you realize, hey, Pankti, I have a family history. I noticed, my mom and my grandma had something. I want to check out if I'm at risk for something. Another group of people that come is if you're about to have kids and you want to make sure that, hey, me and my partner have this. I want to make sure that this doesn't get passed down to my kid. How do we make that possible? And there are new creative ways that we can actually make sure that the kid doesn't even get it.
Interesting. Wait, what are the
Yeah,
new,
yeah,
wait,
yeah,
what are
I
the new
love this
creative,
question.
what are the new creative ways?
Yeah, so if you might have heard of IVF, it's like in vitro fertilization. It's kind of cool. So you get, your partner's for you like sperm, partner's egg, and you can actually grow the embryos outside and really genetically test all these embryos and make sure the one with the healthiest embryo or the one without the genetic change that's going on in your
Hmm.
or your partners, and we implant that back into mom. So that's one of the multiple ways that we can make sure that, hey, that embryo and that baby will not be at risk for that genetic condition that's going on within your family. So that's
Interesting.
one way we can do it. Another way is that before you even decide to have kids, there's this thing called like preconception genetic counseling. So we test you and your partner. There's like about a couple hundred conditions that are most common, and we see if you guys are at risk for any of those too.
That's crazy to me
Yeah.
that you're so deep inside your career too.
Yeah.
Like that you know so much and like you do all of this on the
Yeah.
side. Like, and this is what I mean. Like you have to like people don't realize like a lot of like what you're doing on both ends, right? Like
Yeah.
it comes at I'm sure some level of personal sacrifice to yourself, right? Like your time. Like I can't even imagine what like your days and weekends like look
Sure,
like because you
sure.
have a full
Jumping
job,
everywhere, yeah.
but then you're also at every single of I see every
I
single
know.
like you're at every single event like
Try,
and then you
try.
also have all of your events like talk about that. Like talk about
Yeah.
like, yo, what is that personal
That's
sacrifice like?
Yeah, I know that, for many, many years, like from a young age, I really believed, I agree. I don't think doing everything is possible. And I think there are areas in life where you do have to sacrifice on. But one thing that I really believed in is in time management. I think I honed in a lot of my like high school, college years working on that. Like back in when I was in undergrad, and I don't even know why I decided to do this as in undergrad. But I was like, yeah, I started off as a biomedical engineer. I was like, cool, it's a cool field. I like science. You don't know that
Hmm.
much when you're so young. And I missed math. And I'm like, slap on the math major. Let's do it. And so that ended up doing 2 degrees.
Yeah.
Why at that time? I was like, I can do it.
Not just any 2 degrees,
Yeah,
like
why not?
VME
Yeah,
and
yeah.
math,
See,
right?
I know. And
Like
then
I couldn't even cut it as the one, right?
oh my gosh, I don't know what I was thinking. And after coming out of college, I was like, why did I do all this? But you know what? More than the content and the knowledge that I got of it, I think it taught me some really valuable lessons, which is how can I manage my schedule in a way to do it? And I think I learned a lot of lessons. I think, of course, recognizing what your limit is, what your boundaries are, how much can you actually handle on your plate? Because I do believe that there is such a thing where your plate is too full. And I don't think everyone can do everything, neither can I. But I think I
Are you
realized,
sure? I feel like you do it. Like I feel like you do a lot. Like I like look at my time and I'm all like, yo, like I'm at bandwidth. Right?
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
like rough for me to
yeah,
say, right? Because I
yeah.
like to think I have like unlimited
No,
energy store,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I'm at bandwidth
No, for
realistically. Like I
sure.
can't take on another thing. But I look at your plate and I was like, maybe I can take on
No.
something else, right? Like I'm all like, yo, like if they're doing all of that, like I
I
should be able
can
to.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. I feel like it's such a personal like decision for yourself. And I think I spend a lot of time kind of self-introspecting and trying to figure out, hey, what can I handle and what can I not? And I try to think about it as often as possible. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I getting burnt out? Or hey, I'm gonna dedicate like this Sunday, I'm just gonna do me and I'm just gonna hang out by myself. Or I might just see like one friend or something that I genuinely just am excited to do. So I try to keep like balances for myself. But no, granted, when I moved to New York, I was on social on steroids. I think I was like not realizing what those checks and balances are. But after realizing, hey, these are the couple things I want to work on. I want to work on genetics. I want to work on events. Those are the two career passions I want to explore. And I'm going to go full swing. And you should see my calendar. It is maxed out on every level or form.
You don't think that because you love those things, and I know that I can tell that you
I
really do love those things, that
do.
because I have to ask myself that too, right? Because it's very, very easy for me. Like I don't feel burnt out, right? Because this stuff energizes me.
Yeah, exactly.
But it does come at other sacrifices, right? That I may not I might not really understand, right?
Sure.
Like I looked up one week and I was like, oh, I haven't seen like my friends in like a chill, casual setting
Sure, in a minute.
in a minute,
Yeah.
right? And it's like so easy for me to say
Of course.
because like it's so easy for me to do because it's like, yo, like I'm like just like head down because like I love this, right? And I know that you probably do too. So like, how do you like
Yeah.
do you feel like, hey, like some of that too, right? Like, do you feel like, yo, like you probably have more bandwidth than the average person because you love what you do?
I really believe that it's as like a classic cliche saying, but I genuinely believe if you love what you do, work doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And that's why I know that I'm in the right place in the right time right now. Every single moment of the day, I feel like I can dedicate so much time to this because I genuinely like love it. I like with the community and the events and with helping people through like genetics and just being there for someone on an emotional level. Those are my truest passions in life. And I genuinely can keep doing this. But one of my biggest also like loves of life is people, and
People.
bigger than that, my like chosen family and my
Hmm.
own personal community. And that's like I said, I wouldn't be here without them. And I really try to dedicate and take out time in my like week that we're gonna go grab chai or we're gonna go grab coffee or I'm just gonna spend the night at your place and we're just gonna like just catch up. And it's not like I don't want to have those surface level talks. Like I want to know like how are you? Like, how are you
Yeah.
genuinely feeling? And granted, like, I have those like select group of like best friends that I will literally do whatever you need at any moment, anytime. I will fly wherever I need to be there for you. Because for me, like, those friends are my brothers and sisters, and those are my pillars. And no matter what, whatever I'm working on, to me, that always comes first. And if there's anyone going through any crisis, my love of life is always like, I'm there. I don't care how
Yeah.
I need to do it, but I'm gonna help you and hold your hand, and whatever you need in the way you need it, I'm gonna get you through it.
Yeah.
That I really prioritize that one for sure.
I think though, like it's interesting that you say that because I feel like that's probably what makes you pretty effective, even in your current roles,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like I think like that attitude of like being
of
there,
course.
right? Because I think like your name and from like again like from people I've heard around, right? Like
Yeah.
your name carries
Yeah.
pretty goodwill.
Oh, thanks.
And I think that's definitely conducive to what you do, right? But I just want you
Yeah.
to know that too, right?
Oh,
That
that's so
you
sweet.
are when you do things like the right way and you are like a good, solid person,
Yeah.
like you don't have to like constantly be there for everyone, but
Yeah.
people know that like,
We're
hey,
here for
it's
you.
like a good,
Yeah.
it's like it's good vibes here, right? Always.
No, I know. Thank you so much for saying that. No, I honestly like cannot give the credit to myself. I feel like the way I am today or who I am today is because of like I'm sure my family, like the way I was brought up, the upbringing, the people that I surround myself with. There's this quote like you're the average of your five best friends. I really think so. Like anyone that you'll probably meet through me or
Hmm.
friends of me, I genuinely think are a reflection of who I am today. So I honestly give the credit to all of them and the way I was brought up to be like who I am
Yeah,
today.
no, and I think it's like a vice versa thing. I think like we always look at it from like the self, right? Like
Yeah.
who do I surround myself out with, right? And then what are they projecting onto me? But I like have started to think about like, yo, who am I projecting onto my friends, right?
Yeah.
Like am I increasing like my friends like vibrations and my
Oh,
friends vibes and
yes,
my like
yes.
cuz like I like truly like try to, right? Like I really try to make sure that like, yo, if I have love for you, I want you to
You
be
know.
better as well, right?
Yeah. You like like you really do wish well for that person. And I really do feel like when I see someone succeed or when I like watch someone do them, that's my favorite thing. Most recently, one of my really close friends, she is an incredible artist. Like I see her, I've seen her for years and I see her draw, I see her paint, I see her create these things. And I always tell them like, you're so good. Like, do you ever want to do something about it? Or do you ever want to create something? And she's like, ah, no, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't know. And recently, an opportunity came up, and someone was looking for an artist in the community. And I was like, like, can I connect you with her? Can I get you this opportunity? And she had my friend hesitated a little bit, but she's like, "Ah, okay, let me try it." And I remember she was self doubting herself a lot, but then eventually she did do it, and she got the opportunity. She went to the event, and she was painting these beautiful artwork on candles, and everyone was raving about it. The
You know, it's so
event, but
funny. I
then
think I know who this is too.
really, oh
I'll tell you.
wait,
I'll
no,
confirm with you off mic.
that's awesome.
It's so funny. I know exactly who this
Wait,
is
I
too.
love that.
That's how you know that the like again, right? Like what you do is so important because
Yeah,
even when I heard this story,
yeah.
they said, "Yo, like Punkti through the alley oop," right?
Stop. That's so
Like that's
sweet.
like
I mean,
again,
of
hey,
course.
hey, if you're listening, right? Like, listen, what you do and what you say matters, right? Because people like this shit goes
I'm
around.
I'm paying attention. Like I think you see that sparkle in someone's eye and be like, they want to do it and they're just a little scared. And I know if I can like just if they want to do it and if I can push them or connect them in somewhere from, I got you. So viewers out there, if I can connect you, send them my way.
No, and I
Yeah.
think like yo, you're again like super valuable in that space because I don't look at. I know you said what you do is like event planning, right?
Yeah.
But I look at what you do as so much bigger than that, right? Like I look at you as like if I'm really gonna like label this podcast, it's like Bhakti Doshi community builder, right? Because
Mm,
that's how I look at like a lot of
yeah.
like I look at you in that space, right? Like I look at like a Kahani in that
Yep.
space. I look at like an Ani in that space. Like y'all are
Absolutely.
building like communities, right? And y'all are building your own individual communities, but think about it, they all intersect somewhere,
I know.
right?
We're all merging. We're all the same community. We're all the same people.
It
I
really
like to
is,
think
right? Like
so.
you guys are all building your individual communities.
Oh, 100%.
And but at the same time, like it has to intersect just because of how like
Yep.
human nature is
Absolutely.
intersection of everything, right?
Oh yeah, and that's the beautiful part because when people are coming to my event, we're all like, "Oh, I'll see you at the next Indo event, or I'll see you at the next No Nazar
There's-
event." And we're all like, "Hey, well, can't wait to see you again."
And there's so much like, and that's the like really cool part when you really think about it is then like what does that like look like as we all hopefully get better, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how I look at it from like what I know I didn't give you my little like podcast builder, but that's how I look at it for everybody in this space. I'm all like, yo, like Punkti's big now, right? And what she's doing, but imagine this goes even bigger, right? I hope like yo, like I can also like grow with all of y'all
Oh,
and to be that,
absolutely.
right? Because I want like because I think like eventually more and more people will
Oh,
care about hearing these stories and hearing these voices. And
absolutely.
that's like really what inspired like me to do this, because I admire everybody out from across the pond. I'm like, yo, y'all are really building these, right? And
I
and
I
I think it's
agree.
so important, like what that is from like not just like a business
Mhm.
perspective, because that's how I like look at it, but just from like a true community. Because I think when we come to the US, like a lot of like I think like the benefit that like Italian Americans have and like
Mhm.
South Asian Americans have, right, is that we get to come here and then be a part of something.
Yes,
But
yes.
if we, and that's only because like our generations are still like we're one generation away, right? But eventually as more generations come out, unless you foster that, you kind of lose it.
That was one of my biggest fears. I remember like growing up and just, my parents immigrated from Gujarat and I was born in California in the Bay Area. And that was something that I grew up with where, I grew up with a lot of South Asian population. So I'd never really, questioned that much. I was so lucky where like, oh, I didn't feel embarrassed. I wasn't disappointed. I was like excited.
Mhm.
I come from an Indian background. I'm excited to be, Indian. And as I grew older and started getting more awareness of the world and realized, oh man, my experience might have been a little bit more unique, but it's so awesome and give credit to the fam that they fostered that community, that culture, and created that sense of home. And I never, yes, that's that duality between, being South Asian and American. But I feel so lucky that that was there for me. And similar to what you just mentioned, that's exactly why, we're doing all this. Like, I hope like we get to do this in our current generation, but even for the upcoming generations, as we get more and more people coming through, I'm excited for them to take on and pass the baton and push it forward. What you're doing, also to your point earlier, is incredible. I love that you are creating a space for people like me and other leaders, other creators to share their
Thank
story,
you.
and being able to create those meaningful conversations is everything. And thank you so much for even taking the time and energy to like invite us and let us be a part of this movement that you're also creating. I really do believe that as we're growing and rising, I believe that we're all doing this together. And it's through that synergy that we have that we can keep this momentum alive for the, this generation and upcoming generation.
Yeah, no, and like to like your point, like I want like another generation past us, right,
Me
to
too.
look at us and be like,
Yes.
oh, like this shit was cool, right? Because like
Yes.
that, and that's like why I like thought like the original Masala mixtape was such like a moment, right? Because I was like, yo, this is the craziest thing to think about, right? It's a bunch of like South Asian Americans,
I
right, that are
know.
choosing on a Friday, Saturday night instead of going to like a Little Sister or going to XYZ
Yeah.
club, right? They're deciding to spend it with their people,
Yeah.
watching their people. And I'm all like,
Ugh.
how crazy is that? Like, yo, like nothing ties us here except for the fact that, like, yo, we all kind of like look alike
I
from where we're at.
know.
That's
Yeah.
it. Because all of us have crazy different backgrounds.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
a Gujarati girl from the Bay
Yeah.
Area, right? I'm a Bengali kid who came when I was 4 and hated the fact that I was like Bengali
Oh, no.
for a bit,
That
right?
makes sense.
But
Yeah.
it's so important for me to like think about it. Like I think that's like the coolest part about seeing all of this,
Mhm.
because it makes me truly, because I think I always like, yo, I was born in Bangladesh, right? Like I came here.
Of
So I'm
course.
like always going to be like, I'm always gonna be brown,
Of
right? Like
course.
nobody ever gonna take that away.
Mm-mm.
But I also like spent a decent amount of my life like, like, oh, like this is like being brown wasn't like cool, right? So I was just like, all right, whatever, right? Like let me adopt the things that
Of
make me
course.
accepted, right? Like that's why like, yo, I'm such a hip, like those are the things that made me feel
Yeah.
included.
Of
But
course.
now seeing the intersection of all of those experiences
Oh,
on the
totally.
coolest level, right? Like seeing somebody like an Anik is like so fly to me, because I'm all like,
Of
I'm like, yo,
course.
that's a Bengali kid that
Yes.
does real hip hop, right? Like he like
Yeah.
raps for real. Like
Oh,
he
it's so
he's not like this, like, oh, like I'm a Bengali rapper. No,
no.
like you're a real
It's doing the real
artist, right?
thing. Yeah.
Like seeing a Masala mixtape is like being like, yo, this is not just some like brown, like a like I think that's why, because I think growing up, my dad would have like a lot of these like brown events, and you could tell
Yeah.
like it was like not like, because it's their generation doing it,
Understandable.
and it's like, of course, right?
Understandable. Yeah.
But you like kind of like not shit on it, but you're looking at it like, oh, I wouldn't go to that event,
Yeah.
whatever. But now seeing these events, like I'm like, I would 1,000% go to this event. Like if this is a brown event,
Yeah.
yo, sign me up. But
Yeah, it's like it's us. Like it
yeah,
feels like natural, it feels comfortable, it feels dope. It feels like this is where we belong and we're excited to be here.
yeah, no, and I think like the fact that it's like cool to me is
Yeah.
like so flag, right? Because I'm all like, yo, the products are good, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like a fun vibe. It
Absolutely.
truly is like what I would want to be doing at that time, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's wild. With Masala, it's those artists that are in the room. It's that venue, it's the environment, it's the people, also the vendors and sponsors. It's wild how many people are coming together like in front of the scene and behind the scene to make this whole full production
An
actually work.
experience.
And actual
Experience.
experience for not just for a couple hours. We're there for like a good like 8 hours,
Yeah.
and everyone's there from the beginning till the end, and we're still going to last. I remember Masala One, we were there till 4 a.m. and I'm like, wow, people are still down
No.
here.
Listen. Like, I'm sorry. I had to tap out at like 2
No,
a.m. But I was
that's
like,
amazing.
but I was like, yo, people are still here, right? They're like, I was like, yeah, like guys, like, and then there's like, yo, Zach Night is still going
going
on, and I'm
on.
just like, oh, okay, like, but
It is wild.
no, like to your point though, like I think that is the coolest thing. I think like Ani does like a really good job because like you see Kolkata Chai like cross collabed with everyone, like
I love that.
in the warehouse, yo, Kolkata Chai like cocktail, right?
Absolutely.
I forgot what Akhil's cooking
Yep.
supper club was called, right?
Yep.
Yo, Kolkata Chai sponsored like event,
Yeah.
and I'm all like, oh, like this is like it's cross functional everywhere, right? Even
Crazy.
what you do, artists, event, venue, vendors, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy. Even with the vendors and sponsor committee, we're also all super tight as well. And I think, Kolkata 100%, we just worked with them for Dandia Drop. And then just the number of vendors and something that we also prioritize at some of our events, we try to create little vendor markets or environments, especially
I
at
do remember that from
Masala.
Masala Mixtape.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
also dope too, because it's like great for them to, for the businesses to raise awareness about, hey, these are the cool things that are out there. Dope entrepreneurs, creators, having that space and dedicated time with the, target audience that they're wishing for and the community that's there to be excited that they're there, whether it's food, jewelry, makeup, whatever it is. That's the exposure that they're looking for. And we're excited to, at least if we can create a space in the venue, like, please come through.
Yeah, yo, again, back to how important it is to do what you're doing, right? Like, and because I think for me, somebody who would like, I always like look at it this, like if Gucci made something and a South Asian creator made the same exact product, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm gonna go spend my money with the person that kind of look like me, believes in the things that I believe. I'm not, again, not
100%.
just because they're South Asian, because
course.
hopefully they believe in the way that I view things. Like, of course, I would do that.
Yeah.
But for me, I think like the trouble, because I'm like a huge ass consumer. I think the trouble for me is always finding those products, right? Like I think
Yeah.
like it's tough, like especially when I'm like noticing this now, like trying to do like creative, is that the algos and like the big money, right? Like it's not conducive to just our exposure, right? Like we get sent down other things, right? So like for example, like a White Claw marketing budget
Sure.
is not going to compare with like their South Asian seltzers.
Yes.
Like that was like
jungly,
jungly,
root beer, yeah,
right? And I'm just like, oh, like those marketing budgets aren't going to get to me, right? But that's why like what you did,
course.
super cool, right? Because I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that these products existed.
That's the coolest part. I'll let you in on a fun little story. So when we were doing Masala Mixtape 1, one of my jobs and responsibilities was, how do we get vendors? And at that time, I honestly was just trying to figure things out. I remember making a list of 1,000 South Asian vendors. I remember sending cold call, just emailed and DM'd. And I was like, all right, I'm going to just do it and reach out to 1,000 people and we'll see what happens. And it's crazy, out of the 1,000, maybe like couple hundred responded and then 50 people interested and then we ended up having like 20. And it's crazy that now that we've gone through that one time, we did it again earlier this year, those contacts expand, the relationships grow, and it is mind-blowing how many South Asian creators and entrepreneurs there are. And by going through that experience, I was also enriched and learned so much about, oh my gosh, teach me, like, how did you create this? Even how you just created your business and company. What's the origin story? What motivated you? And it's amazing. Like, I'm constantly, anytime I see someone else or is recommended, hey, can you reach out to these guys? I'm always like, let me hop on a call with them. If there's a way for me to put on an event for you, or if there's a way that you can be part of our event, let's make it happen. With even, I know, as you mentioned earlier, there's different budgets, there are different amounts, but I always tell everyone, at the end of the day, I care about you being at our event or me helping you out with yours. Money is not an issue. We will figure out a way to make it happen. If not now, we'll figure out a way long term. But I really just care about the business being there because this is the platform. This is the way we get exposure and like grow it all together.
Yo, I'm so happy that you lived up to my expectation of what you, because I always assumed that you'd be like, you know what I'm saying? But it's good to hear that like you have that attitude
Of
towards it. Cause like
course.
I figured, right? Because I'm all like, yo, like you're like, I'm sure this is like way too much work, right? Cause it can't just be about the money for you, right?
Oh my god.
Because it's like, this is way too much work. There's easier ways to get money than like
yeah.
putting all of these like events together, right?
Yeah.
So like it makes me happy like knowing that like, yo, like the community is in good hands when it comes to like just the attitude you're carrying with this, right? Because I think like for somebody like me, I'm just like, yo, like people like you, people like Ani, that like y'all really have to foster a lot of these like because a lot of these people are like super cool, super creative, right?
Yeah.
But they might just not know how to
Yeah.
get it out there, right?
Sure.
But like you're somebody who has like a proven track record of being able to execute. I like look at a lot of like, as I think like just because of the podcast, like I get to talk to a lot of people who are executing
Yeah.
at such a high level
Awesome.
that I like realize like, oh, like like these people are just like executors. Like it didn't matter like what I put in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Like it just happened to
Make it
be
happen. Yeah.
events, right? But like it could have been anything else. It could have been genetic counseling.
Sure, whatever
it was
it is.
genetic counseling,
Yeah.
right? So like for me, it's like, yo, a lot of these creatives have like, or even I look at a lot of the artists like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these artists, I talk to a decent amount because of this.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that always strikes out to me is like, yo, you guys are sick artists, but some of it is you don't know how to get you out there.
Yeah, totally.
Like the first I had PDNY up here, and I'm like just like listening to his music like the entire week, like getting like ready for the episode, and I'm playing it in the car. And my sister goes like, "Yo, who is this?" Right? And I'm just like, I like explain, and then she's like, "Oh, this is fire! Like, why isn't this like everywhere?"
Yeah.
Right? She's talking about his song like Equari, and she's like, "Yo, like this should be like a TikTok sound, right?" And I'm just like, I agree.
100%.
But a lot of it is like, yo, like the business lacks the artistry sometimes, right? Or the creative is ahead of the business.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But my argument, and I know some people is like, oh, like I'm just doing it because I want to like do the represent, and that's amazing. But I think
Awesome.
you getting it out there
Of course.
is so important to like you and said community, right? Like
Yeah.
it'd be amazing if you were hosting events, but if no one showed up,
Oh,
it'd be
yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
it'd be like,
What's the
oh, that's
point?
cool. Like
Yeah.
Monty's like having events, like that's
Yeah.
great for representation. But you know what's more great for representation?
Yeah.
When you have 1,100
Showing
people
up.
in the superior ingredients, right? Because then that's when like big venues look at our events and are like, oh, they
Yeah.
could do this.
Oh, absolutely. It's like when you see that inception, just that thought actually right in front of you manifest and executed, and people are actually showing up because they want to be there. That like it's literally proof of concept to product happening right in front of you in a period of time. And once you see that happen, I think more doors open. I really do believe that when one door opens, another one will keep opening. And next thing you know, you got a lot of doors open and finding more ways to keeping those alive too.
No, for sure. I like look at like even I just track like what's going on in like nightlife outside New York City.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, we went from I saw like Desi Saturdays, right? Like was
Yes,
doing
yes.
Desi Saturdays went from like, yo, SOBs like a little bit to SOBs every other venue
Believe that?
every
Amazing.
week.
Yeah. They're at it.
Every week.
Yeah.
And every week they pack out that venue, right? I don't even know what the business is behind that, right?
It's
But
full.
every week,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just like, yo, like even I think about it, like even Indo selling out a Brooklyn Mirage, right? And I'm like, what other
I know.
experience? Like if they didn't do that, like a Kahani
Yes.
or an Amsol,
Oh,
they would have
absolutely.
never gotten the opportunity to play at Mirage. And as like a DJ, that
That's
is
the
it.
dream. That is the venue. I know even Amsol, as one of our artists for Masala mixtape this past year, the fact that he started Electric Desi
Yes.
and now he is literally selling out. I was just chatting with him the other day and it's like, it is selling out so quick. And it's just, I was like, I'm so proud of you. I cannot believe you are the force behind this. And people have been following you on TikTok and Instagram for such a long time. And people love you as a person, but love your music and the vibes that you're creating. And if it wasn't for you to have created this, we wouldn't have even known that this was even possible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah.
But again, back to like how important like something like a Masala mixtape is, right? And
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep reiterating that because like I want you to
you.
know that like yo, it's like
Thank
seen and like
Yeah.
super appreciated. I think it's because I think about some of those like artists that performed, right? And I'm like, yo, some of y'all may have never ever touched this stage, right?
Yeah.
Like yo, like it's cool. Like yo, Anika's been selling out venues, but some of the artists that aren't there at that stage of their
Sure.
careers,
Sure.
they may have never gotten the chance to perform out of Superior Ingredients.
Absolutely. Same with Superior and then Arts District Brooklyn this year. That was also one of the most exciting part. Even just having those up and coming artists like, starting, for example, like Suraj Saxena. I mean, we've been following him for a really long time. And I remember hearing through the grapevine that he was starting DJing and
Mhm.
he was interested in the opportunity to take a stage and get out there. And we've seen him with his, beautiful philosophical videos and self-introspection. We see him with the chai. But, seeing him being like, hey, I wanna try this. Like, can I get the opportunity? I'm all the way in California, but can we make it happen? I'm like, you know what? Let's find a way to connect the dots and make this possible. And it's just even having artists like him and the up and coming artists, having them share the stage and the spotlight with all the other bigger names and artists. that is just like I'm just so excited for them to be able to get that opportunity. And like I was saying earlier, when I see the artists all communicating and talking together and just seeing them like, hey, I'm gonna see them hang out and like record music next time together. That's where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe y'all met at Masala. It was really funny. DJ Umsol and AJ Wavy, both amazing DJs in different locations of the world, one in the UK and one in the US. They have been talking, chatting for a really long time. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe Masala is the first time that they both crossed paths and got the
Hmm.
opportunity to share the stage together. And actually, there was a moment where both of them were on the stage. They were vibing. They were like holding each other, and I'm
Hmm.
like, "Oh my god, this is so dope!" Like they're bonding, they're vibing. I bet they can have amazing conversations on what it means to make. And I don't know all this, but how to make music, how to create music that's dope right now for our generation, and blending the cultures. And I'm like, wow, like this is hype. You guys go keep doing this. Like,
No, no, it's like so fire because like yo, like that's where I'm seeing a TikTok. I'm gonna 100% butcher which DJ it was. It
yeah,
might be DJ AJ,
yeah.
South Asian DJ in London. He's making it's a Burna Boy remix with 915, right?
Ooh.
And it's one of the most fire mixes is going viral on TikTok, and I'm all like, yo, he doesn't realize how important that is.
Mm-mm.
That's for a lot of people. I'm seeing like people from different races, like
Oh yeah.
like perform to the TikTok sound, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, yo, these people would have never ever heard of this person's song. It's like a Punjabi song, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yo, I'm seeing like random like London,
So
like
dope.
random white London girls do dances to this, and I'm all like, yo, they don't even realize, right? And I'm all like, yo, that's so valuable. I want you. I like do this thing where I do it for myself, and you don't have to say it. You can say it to me off
Sure.
camera, but if you feel comfortable sharing it now,
Of course.
I do this thing where I like call my shot, meaning like I project something out in three, like I like just again whatever time frame that, but I like asking guests now, right? Like call your shot. Like what is the shot for Bhakti Doshi in this event space for Andor from a solid mixtape? Say something, like say it and project it out.
All right. Okay. So this is just fresh hot off the press. My goal, LA Masala mixtape next year. So we're gonna be doing LA and New York. My goal, I want to make South Asian Coachella to that level Masala mixtape within 5 years. That is my goal. I want to keep growing. If I can do it sooner, let's go. But I think within 5 years, and I know it'll take a couple years because we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still trying to understand how we can make it bigger. But I want to take Masala mixtape on tour. I want to make it as big. Get I want to get like thousands, hundred thousands of people from around the country. I want people to be flying, people be driving. I want people from around the country. I want people flying from around the world. I dream big though, but I really think that if you think it and set it as a vision, I think that the world kind of works itself. And of course, with hard work and dedication and the right timing, the right place, things can happen. So I really hope that I can make something like this possible. But it's through the support of everyone that's watching this right now. It's through the support of incredible leaders like you. And I really hope that we all as a community can come together for something like
Nah,
that.
like yo, I have no question, and this is like my level of faith inside like my community and my level of faith for like people like you.
Yeah.
Like I have no like you're just time away. Cause you're doing the things. You're doing the things, right? Like that, and that's like
True.
the part that like excites me. Because when I see people like execute, I'm just like, you're just time away, right? It's not like
Yeah.
you're like fucking this up, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's continuously
Consistent.
getting better, right? Like
Yeah.
you haven't like fell off, right?
Yeah.
Like it hasn't stagnated. Like it's just
It's growing.
it's just consistently growing, right?
Yeah.
So you're really just time away.
Oh, I hope so. I want to keep Masala, and then even outside of Andor, I want to keep growing the event space. I mean, for any creator, anyone who's wanting to do something, I want to be that facilitator to help them create what they want to envision. And let's all keep growing and get bigger together. Like,
Yeah,
let's do
no,
it.
for sure. Because when you talk about like, yo, I have no qualms about you being able to pull off like a
Yeah.
South Asian Coachella, but it's going to take all of these artists growing, right? Like, because if I want to fly out to LA for
Yes.
Coachella, like I'm seeing a bunch of artists that I want to see,
Yep.
right? So like for me to say like, yo, I'm gonna go fly out to South Asian Coachella,
Yeah.
right? It better be like line up and down, right? It better be like just killers
Killer
up
lineup.
and down. It got to be an Umsal and a Neek and then it has to be
Exactly.
up and down killers that we know, right?
Absolutely. So that's why I tell everyone, whether any talent that you are, like keep doing what you're doing because it's because of you that we're all inspired for us to do us. So, well, let's make this grow and like let's all do it together.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for doing this, Fuck. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much for being you and for even creating an environment like this. I appreciate you so
Absolutely
much.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
We good, guys? Amazing. Thank
Oh,
you guys.
you're amazing, by the way. Like, oh my
Literally,
god.
like gave me chills throughout like the
You're
whole
so
thing.
sweet. I literally did not know what I was saying. You are amazing, by the
Thank you,
way.
thank
Like
you,
what
thank you.
what you two